Hello!
Hello.
How about new, you crazy Dutch bastard?
Hello and welcome to the Film Mobcast. I'm Joe and this is Katie.
Hi!
We're doing this on behalf of the filmmagazine.com and we're currently in a big empty echoey room inside of York University. So apologies if this is echoey. Before I get started, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube and Pinterest at the Film Magazine with 2 M's, or you can find us on thefilmmagazine.com, which is 1 M. Today, the topics we're going to discuss are Independence Day 2 and Leonard Nimoy's death, and we've got a few questions as well for a bit of back and forth with regard to a few movie questions that we've come up with. We'll be throwing those out to you at some point, sometime. Right, so topic number 1, let's discuss Independence Day 2. For those who don't know, the background on this is that this week Roland Emmerich, the director of Independence Day 1, announced Jeff Goldblum and Liam Hemsworth will be the lead stars for the sequel. Katie, what's your opinion?
I am so excited for this film. I mean, there's 2 kinds of people in this world. People who love Independence Day and people who haven't seen it. It's like the epitome of a summer blockbuster movies. It's so fun. It makes you feel patriotic, even though you're not even American. It's great. I love it. And I don't even care if they get like all the cast that they had in the original one, like Will Smith and stuff. Because the premise of big-ass aliens blowing up buildings on Earth is cool enough anyway. Also, like, even though some people are probably like, oh, another sequel, because recently, like, we are living in a world of sort of reboots and sequels. However, like, in comparison to, say, Spider-Man, which is having its second reboot within 10 years, like, Independence Day came out in 1996, so... Well, I was like 3 at the time, so...
Yeah, I was 5, so yeah. It's 20 years in the making, I get what you're saying. The problem is, in my opinion, how do you retell a story where the aliens invaded and then they got destroyed? Do they just invade again, or is it some sort of different invasion? Is it coping with the aftermath of what happened the first time, where the cities are destroyed? If so, how do they do that, really, in a world where we know that New York isn't destroyed? We know that aliens didn't actually invade. The White House still does exist. How do they tell that story?
Well, maybe if it is sort of a parallel to the passage of time here, like in the real world, you could assume that maybe in 20 years' time that they will have sorted themselves out reasonably, probably. But also it might be to do, I think probably it might be another alien species invading, because it's a big universe out there, so if there's going to be one set of bad boys, you could expect another. Maybe it's to do with the fact that we know there's life out there, so maybe they're putting money into a space program and going out there and then shit happens.
That would be cool, actually. Yeah, us going out there as opposed to them coming here first would be a good way. Like, maybe we provoke them into visiting us.
Yeah, something like that.
Which that makes them hostile, some sort of event.
Bit of a Captain Scarlet sort of situation.
Yeah, maybe have Jeff Goldblum like the head of the new NASA.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, yeah. Yeah, after he kind of, saved the world with his little MacBook.
Yeah.
In the last one.
Just a general computer virus kills everything in 1996.
The 90s. Such simple times.
Speaking of that, what do you think of the casting? Like, Liam Hemsworth is big for the Hunger Games and is a bit of a teenage heartthrob sensation at the minute. And obviously Jeff Goldblum coming back.
Well, Liam Hemsworth, he's got my thumbs up.
Really? How come?
Well, he's just a general beefcake.
Actually, yeah, I saw an image yesterday and he was on Saturday Night Live recently with Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. Oh.
And the other Hemsworth brother. And the other Hemsworth brother, bless him, is like half a foot smaller than the other 2.
Oh.
So you've got these 2 massive guys with these chiseled jaws and like amazing coloured hair. and this other guy who just kind of stood there like average Joe in the middle of...
I kind of feel sorry for him having to grow up in that household with those
exactly,
two.
yeah.
But you have to applaud Mr. and Mrs. Hemsworth for producing such a set of lovely boys. I am going to say, in terms of Independence Day, I am going to be incredibly shallow about this, because to be honest, it's sort of a shallow film of woo, explosions, pow pow, Will Smith cracking out really cool one-liners, blah blah blah. So yeah, he'll fit the bill in sort of the hands. Also, Jeff Goldblum. Yeah. That is amazing. They've got him involved.
He's kind of been away for a while. I mean, he appeared in what's the dance he's singing? Glee. He played in Glee.
Did he?
Yeah, he was someone's dad or something. And I was like, what's that about? Because he kind of took a break.
Well, think about how much money he would have made from like the first Independence Day.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But that's actually perfect, because the first question that we're going to answer is, what's the best film starring Jeff Goldblum?
Wow.
I'll let you go first.
I could
and
be.
then I'll argue back with what my answer is, which is different because we've prepared.
Yeah.
Best film starring Jeff Goldblum.
Well, we could have been really deep here and said something like The Fly, which, of course, is a very good film. Special effects are amazing, and it's really quite scary. But to be honest, heart of hearts, my honest answer would have to be Jurassic Park.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one. It's mostly a good one because I chose the second film.
You're a film student. You should have been like more artsy. Going for the more adult one.
Yeah, so I chose Jurassic Park: The Lost World, or The Lost World Jurassic Park, however that goes. What makes you think he's better in Jurassic Park than he is in The Lost World?
Well, we'll say like the best film, and Jurassic Park is the first one. So also, I really relate to Jeff Goldblum in that film, because like if you knew someone who was deciding to make a film park with real life dinosaurs, you would be like, this is a stupid idea. Can we stop? You really relate to him. But like, so he's relatable, but then he's really cool in a sort of really nerdy way at the same time.
Yeah, I'll concede that he's a lot cooler in the first one than he's in the second one.
Yeah.
But that's exactly why I actually prefer him in the second one. He's himself. He's Jeff Goldblum that appears in Independence Day. He's Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, but then he spends half the movie stuttering then, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's true, and I can't argue against that. But the second one is his movie. The first one's very much Sam Neill.
I was going to say, I will concede to that, and also those bloody children. But, I really like Jeff Goldblum's character in that. He's very heroic. He almost gets killed to save the children. If I was him, I would have just let them get crushed to death, to be honest.
My favourite scene with Jeff Goldblum in any Jurassic Park is the first one, where they're driving away from the T-Rex that's chasing after them.
Yeah.
And he's injured, so he's on the back of the car facing backwards. And he just has this dinosaur nose about 2 inches away from his legs that are like broken or whatever they are. And that's definitely my favourite Jeff Goldblum Jurassic Park scene. But like, the second film substitutes the kids for the damsel in distress.
Which is more annoying, yeah.
More annoying in your opinion. It's just as annoying in my opinion. Julianne Moore, who's an awesome actress. Do you not like her?
I do like her, but she does cry a lot in all her films, doesn't she?
That's true.
She's got it. Be like, oh, what a surprise! Julianne Moore's crying.
You may have offended a few people because she's kind of an internet darling with film nerds amongst us.
Well, I do like her, but it's true. She does cry a lot, sort of thing.
Yeah,
to be fair, if I was in her situation, I'd be crying a lot too. Dinosaurs are scary.
And that's another reason why I feel like Jeff Goldblum in The Lost World, that is the best movie, because it's not only centred around him, but it's kind of Jurassic Park dialed up to 11. There's two T-Rexes and a baby T-Rex, and then the Velociraptors are even more badass. Then you've got Pete Postlethwaite, who came into it, and Vince Vaughn, and people like that, which kind of added a new element of spectacle to the whole thing. And then obviously at the end, when they take the T-Rex back to, I think it's Las Vegas, for the zoo, And it
Because
escapes.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, and it escapes and just goes crazy on the whole town.
Well, can I say, without Jurassic Park, there wouldn't be a Jurassic Park 2. And
True.
I think Jurassic Park 2 unfortunately led to the third Jurassic Park film, which is nowhere near as good as the first two.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
But at the same
also,
time...
you were blown away more by the first film. Like we were saying before, because we both kind of had this opinion that CGI is overused too much in movies now.
Yeah.
That in the first one, we still see it. You don't go, oh, that looks fake. In today's standard, is that, what, 1993 the first one came out?
Yeah, 93.
So that's 21 years. It still looks good. And so I think that was the first time audiences were truly blown away by the dinosaurs in that film. I mean, like, not to say there weren't in Jurassic Park 2, but with the problem with any sequels, it's kind of like seeing the same thing as you just did before.
Yeah, I agree. And basically, that's kind of where my argument falls down, because it is best film starring Jeff Goldblum, and I'm kind of doing it more my favourite performance. I feel like if you consider Jeff Goldblum performances, Jurassic Park is the prequel to what is his main event in the Lost World Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I would say so. As I said, he is more of the lead in it.
Yeah. But, like, as an overall film, I can't argue that the first one's better. Another of my favourite scenes from that film actually is the scene where Samuel L. Jackson's trying to type something into the computer with Richard Attenborough's character. Can't remember his name. The guy who creates the guy who creates the park. And he just turns around and almost directly to the camera says, "Hold on to your butts."
Yeah, that's great. And to stick with everyone's kind of preconceptions of me, my favourite bit from that movie is the huge pile of dinosaur poo.
For people who aren't in the know with regard to Katie's sense of humour, basically, go watch Tropic Thunder and the bit at the beginning for Jack Black's character, where it's a trailer for a new movie called The Farts, is it?
The Fatties.
The Fatties is pretty much the epitome of Katie's sense of humour. She likes fart jokes, poo jokes, all that kind of thing.
I'm not going to lie, I would pay money to see the Fatties fart too.
Exactly. And again, for people who don't know, there's a running joke within our friendship group that Katie has to quote that particular trailer by saying, more beans.
I would do it, but I'm laughing too much. More beans.
So yeah, I think just to round up what we've just gone through, Jeff Goldblum is probably the most Jeff Goldblum that he can be in the Lost World Jurassic Park. But that the first one is probably the best film he's ever been in.
I would be willing to kind of leave it at a draw.
Well, I was conceding, so I'm going to give you it anyway.
Fair enough.
Jurassic Park wins in the argument of best film starring Jeff Goldblum, though Independence Day is obviously a close contender, as is The Fly. But because Jurassic Park won, and we've been speaking about Jurassic Park, it may be a good idea to talk about Richard Attenborough, who passed away a few months ago.
It was last year, but about a few months ago.
Yeah. And we've decided to discuss the best Richard Attenborough performance because we took a look back at his career as a director, and his films are good, award-winning films, but in a lot of cases they're quite dated, and
they haven't aged well, basically.
No, so it became much easier for us to discuss our favourite Richard Attenborough performances as opposed to our favourite Richard Attenborough films.
Not a diss his directing compared to a lot of people out there. It was good, but yeah, I wouldn't pay to see Gandhi.
yeah, and like, I remember seeing Chaplin, and I'm fascinated by Charlie Chaplin as a person, and that was 24 years ago that came out, and that won quite a lot of awards, and that again is really dated. Probably the only one that isn't dated is The Bridge on the River Kwai.
That is awesome, though.
which is an awesome movie, but that would probably win if we were to have a fight about that.
Yeah.
Whereas Richard Attenborough, as an actor, was present for around 70 years.
Yeah.
So
Well, actually, his first debut was a film that I tried to argue was good, but you said no because he only had one line. But it was in actually my favourite film of all time called A Matter of Life and Death, which came out in 1946. So, yeah, that is a massive career. I just really liked that bit in the film because the premise of that film, it's kind of about life and death and heaven and what is in the afterlife. And it's a scene with what might be the afterlife. It's never actually explicitly stated. And you see that the clocks are working away in heaven as they would be on earth, with which his character, who you assume is just some young airman, who was obviously the victim of World War II and is being killed well before his time, looks up cheerily and says, "It's heaven, isn't it?" To kind of like point out that to some people, just to be a clerk would be heaven.
And that's Richard Attenborough who does that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
cool. I've not seen that movie, but you say it's good and I assume you're right.
Yeah, I think it's just an important point because it's like everyone gets to start off where they want in this place. And I just thought that was really sweet that someone could be like, wow, bookkeeping.
Yeah.
This is heaven sort of thing. And he's really cute in that film.
And it's also quite fitting because he's just died. And if you believe in that kind of thing, heaven is where he should have ended up given the trauma of his life.
Yeah.
Especially towards the end when he lost his granddaughter and great-granddaughter in the tsunami of Asia in 2004, I think it was.
Yeah, that was 2004.
So, yeah, hopefully that's where he's gone. So, coming back to the question...
What is my actual...
what's your actual favourite Richard
Well,
Attenborough film?
as I can say that, I would have to say hands down The Great Escape. I love him in that. I mean, I think that is... Like A Matter of Life and Death, it's one of those great Anglo-American, basically propaganda films to kind of improve relationships between the two countries. But it works so well. I mean, I think usually sometimes, like actually, in Independence Day, when it has the British people being like, oh, pip, pip, tally-ho, it's really annoying when they're portrayed as that. But in that film, it's really good. And Richard Attenborough is like the quintessential British soldier. There's too many noises in that sentence. But and it's not only is he a soldier, he's also the squadron leader in the RAF, which in any war film is the most raw position you could be in.
Yeah.
Jerry ahead, 12 o'clock sort of thing. But I love him in that, because as I said, he's like really, he's that scar in his eye even looks like he's wearing a constant monocle, isn't it? But even though the kind of British stiff upper lip might mean he could have seemed aloof, I think he's so warm and loving in that film. Yeah. Like, he's basically the mother hen of the group. Yeah. He's in charge, he's looking after everyone. Like, I love the bit when Danny is halfway through the tunnel. He's the one who's digging it, but you find out he's actually got claustrophobia. And then he kind of has a bit of a panic attack. Yeah. He basically gets overwhelmed and he like, scrambles back out, even though this is his opportunity to escape. Like, he's literally so close and he just can't handle it. And it's just the way that... who's the guy who's partnered with Danny, though? The other younger guy? I
can't remember his name.
Some blonde-haired British guy's gone with him, and it's just the way Richard Attenborough's character is like, make sure he gets out, okay? Yeah. He doesn't want anyone to get left behind, which is what makes the ending sadder. Because after the...
Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the film.
Well...
I mean, it's only 52 years old, so if you haven't seen it yet, then you're probably a bit behind on the time, so carry on.
Yeah, sorry. Well, not sorry. But the cult moment when him and I can't remember any of their names, but him and another British guy are getting on a bus and they're pretending to be French people, and German officials are checking their passports and stuff, and I think they're getting away until the German soldier goes, "Good luck," with which the guy says, "Oh, thank you," revealing himself to be rather British, and it's so frustrating. And the runaway, he gets caught. Richard Attenborough manages to get away for a minute, but like only by 10 more minutes. But you see his face, realising that he can't protect his friend, and it really hurts him. And then obviously the ending, the end of his story is so tragic, because I think you forget in the beginning when he's sent to the prison camp, they say, if you escape again, you will be shot. And kind of in the flurry of like how awesome that film is, you forget. And then they're all like, oh, well, we'll just go back and escape again. And then his realisation that it's the end for them, it's really sad. So I love it because he is so warming, and you can see how it breaks him that he doesn't manage to look after them all and to help them all escape.
I agree that is one of his better performances. The thing that I really like about his character in that movie is that he's so quintessentially British that he opposes the quintessentially American character played by Steve McQueen. Like, you couldn't get a more American guy than Steve McQueen. Yeah. You couldn't get a more British guy than Richard Attenborough. That's just how they both are as people, as actors, as star personas. And in that movie, they play off it brilliantly, in my opinion. And I feel like that when you coming back to what you said about propaganda, they're matched as quintessentially British and American, meshed into the same idea to get out of the war camps, that you as a viewer can't help but to feel like a united, like a bit of to feel united with the Americans as a British person, or vice versa as an American. Obviously, I can't speak for the whole of Britain or America, but that's kind of what comes across in the movie. But my problem with his performance in that film is that he's young. And being 23 years old and knowing mostly only other people that have 40 and below, myself and most of my friends and nearly anyone, all we ever really recognise Richard Attenborough as is an old bearded guy. Which brought me to the thought process of, should I pick my favourite Richard Attenborough performance as Jurassic Park, or should I pick it as this other one, which I ended up picking as my favourite Richard Attenborough performance of all time, and that is The Miracle on 34th Street. Because if you needed anyone, and I mean anyone in the history of cinema, to play Santa, there's not a better guy to do it. He's just the perfect Santa. He's warm, he's lovable, he's small and like cuddly with his greyness and his beard, and it just generally, he is the perfect Santa Claus. And the Miracle on 34th Street remake, which I think came out in 1989, is by far, it came out in 1994.
It's got that girl from Matilda in it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it does. That's, in my opinion, by far my personal favourite Richard Attenborough performance.
Well, you do know, because as I said, we sort of planned this before, or else it might have ended up a bit of a disaster. But Joe knows that I completely disagree with him. I cannot stand that film. I don't want to sound like the typical, like, you know, where you get people being like, oh, I don't listen to modern music, I listen to 1970s funk. But honestly, I do find the original to be far superior to the remake. I mean, I hate the ending scene when he proves he's Santa Claus by that stupid "in God we trust" on the money. Whilst in the original it has, these are all the letters to Santa Claus. Far more like whimsical and like, you know, just less clinical than stupid money. But my point is, I just found that Richard Attenborough is a bit too, this sounds really harsh, is a bit too warm and cuddly, because you forget Santa Claus as itself, you know, he has a good and naughty list. And if you haven't been good, I mean, all parents tell the children that they don't behave, Santa will just bring a lump of coal. So he's not just like, and I just thought, who's the actor in the actor in the original one? I found he was still warm and loving. Like, there's the really sweet scene when he's the store Santa in Macy's, and I think it's either a Russian or a French girl who's been recently adopted and is obviously having trouble fitting in because she can't speak English. And he sings this lovely song in her native tongue about Christmas. Edmund Gwen? Yeah, sorry, I was just looking.
I personally don't know who he is.
Well, he's probably because he's some old-ass actor who has been dead for decades.
Yeah, he was born in 1877.
Oh my God.
So And he died in 1959,
See?
aged 81. So, yeah, he had a long life at least.
I'm going to say that backs up my argument even more because, like, Christmas as we know it was invented in the Victorian era. So that's when Christmas cards and Christmas presents became a tradition. So he grew up with that. So I think he knows the character of Santa better, maybe, I don't know. But I just thought, so he had really cute loving moments, as I said, but he was also quite a stern character. Like, he told people off and stuff like that, which is what Santa Claus would. Santa Claus isn't just, ooh, I don't mind if children are bad. He's like, no, you're getting no presents this year, you're getting cool.
I think one of the things that needs to be remembered, though, is that the early 90s was kind of, for kids, brat culture. You had Macaulay Culkin as the main child star, whose opposite was the girl who played Matilda. I can't remember her name.
Mara Wilson, I think.
Mara Wilson. Those two were both so cheeky, to put it kindly. They were both cheeky, and I felt like even though she was cast in the movie, what he had to do as a person, as a character, was present this idea and this notion that no one's like beyond redemption. Beyond redeeming, I was going to say, so that was embarrassing. No one's beyond redemption, especially little kids. And like, she was brought up in a house where she was taught not to believe in Santa, and the film was very reassuring to people that kids can be kids in a culture where kids were being taught to grow up quicker and quicker.
Yeah.
As opposed to the 50s, where when you were a kid, you were still a kid. Mm-hmm. There was no opposition to that idea. That's
teenagers
just how it was.
didn't really exist
and,
either.
Yeah, and teenagers didn't exist. You just kind of went out to work at 14, in this country at least. So, like, I kind of feel like he had to be warmer and he had to be nicer. And if you're speaking about Richard Attenborough as a performance, Miracle on 34th Street is centred around him. Yeah, it's not his journey that we follow. It's more the journey of the child's mother and how she comes to believe in Santa.
Yeah.
But he is the focal point of everything that happens in the movie, as opposed to The Great Escape, where, yeah, he's important, and he, like I've mentioned before, he's an important opposition to Steve McQueen's character. But the film isn't structured around him.
He's part of an ensemble sort of thing, yeah.
As opposed to the central figure as he is in Miracle on 34th Street, which is why he's better, in my opinion, in the Miracle on 34th Street remake. Again, I feel like that answer for me is showing my age and relative lack of experience compared to other people. There are a lot of roles that either of us could have picked. Like,
I know he's very famous for his role in Brighton Rock, but I don't think me and Joe had the authority on speaking on it because neither of us have seen it.
Yeah, true.
But I would like to see it because I hear he plays like a really nasty villain and stuff. And you guys could check it out, but like I said, I don't kind of want to be talking about something I haven't actually seen. So yeah. So talking of performances, his brother David, I love that when he keeps his cool when an elephant seal nearly eats him in one of his documentaries.
Richard and David Attenborough, the best UK exports in the history of film and TV. Absolute
national treasures.
Yep.
And Richard Attenborough, rest in peace, basically.
Yeah. I think we can agree that neither of us will budge on our choices.
No, definitely not. I hate that movie too much. But your points are made are valid enough. Yeah, they're good.
Trying to keep this on a roll. This is just going to have to be a quick one. But who, speaking of beards and bearded men, as Richard Attenborough was, who is the best movie wizard of all time?
Well, there's not that many to pick out of, but being British and being of the Harry Potter generation, I would have to go for a certain Albus Dumbledore. I mean, he is like the personification of wizards, even though that's the wrong word.
I get what you mean. He's the personification of the idea of what a wizard should be.
Yeah, like definitely. That moment when Richard Harris stepped out with the lighter and he's turning off the lamps. really long beard and a cool hat and just long robes and his hushed, whispered voice.
He's
magical and mysterious.
He's very Merlin-esque.
Yeah, definitely. And also in the first two Harry Potter movies, he is, I think, what he was supposed to be in the book. He's very whimsical, mysterious, but also, even though he's got the twinkle in his eye, there's something deeper and more powerful lying within. And admittedly, that doesn't come out until in the later movies, where it's Michael Gambon and he has his epic magic moments, like when in the scene trying to get the Horcrux, when he has to drink the liquid and he does that badass fire spell and stuff like that. Yeah. And when he has a showdown with Voldemort and stuff like that in the fifth film. So there's lots of elements to his character. So he's like, the gentle, kind of wise mentor character, but then he's also like some badass as well. But there is obviously, though, a disparity in between, like, the fact that Richard Harris died after making the second one.
Yeah, that's where, for me, your argument falls down. And even though I feel like Dumbledore is a very strong character,
he's a good contender.
Yeah, he's definitely a good contender. We did, as we've mentioned a few times, prepare for this, and we had to battle on who would be arguing for the answer that I'm going to give, because both of us pretty much think that this is the best film wizard ever. So my answer is fly, you fool.
Yes!
Gandalf from The Lord of the Rings.
And Hobbit trilogy.
And the Hobbit trilogy now, yeah. Basically, you talk about badassery with Dumbledore. Gandalf is more badass as an old man, an infinitely old man possibly, with an incredibly grey and then white beard, who can do everything. He can ride a horse at however many miles per hour down a hill to battle a bunch of orcs.
Also, not just any horse. Shadowfax, the lord of all horses.
True.
Yeah.
He can cast incredible spells, obviously. He's also the father figure to pretty much all of the hobbits, really. Especially Frodo. And I think we kind of come to the agreement that...
I think, sorry, when you mentioned the hobbits, it's that scene when Gandalf falls and all the baby hobbits are all crying, and it's the most upsetting thing ever. Oh, that was a good scene, that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, just to round this question off, I feel like we can both agree that Gandalf is the wizard. I'd personally say as well, within Harry Potter, Dumbledore's not necessarily the best wizard. It's like, Harry's a good one. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy Snape, sort of, in certain aspects of his character. Mm-hmm. And Hermione, obviously.
Yeah.
She's more of a witch, so
yeah.
she doesn't count. But, like, Harry Potter, in my opinion, has got better characters than Dumbledore, whereas Lord of the Rings doesn't have better characters than Gandalf.
Yeah, he's kind of the top banana.
Yeah. And
also the problem, as we mentioned, it was the casting change. Like, Michael Gambon does do a good job, but he just... Richard Harris was more book Harry Potter, and Michael Gambon wasn't. And if you ask any Harry Potter fan, what are the main complaints? It was nothing like the book, sort of thing. Yeah. So I think that is where my argument does fall short. Yeah.
So... we agree that Gandalf is the winner of that one, which means that you're currently winning. You've currently got 1 point, and I've currently got 1 point. We drew the second question, so we're at one apiece. Moving into our next question, which is, again, linked to the previous question. Who is your favourite X-Men character and why? The reason it's linked to the previous question is obviously because your choice... was played by the same person who played Gandalf, Sir Ian McKellen.
Yeah, and does he need any introduction? It's bloody Magneto. He has undoubtedly the best powers, okay? not only can he manipulate metal and stuff, so, you know, he can stop bullets and all that, he can also fucking fly. I mean, when it comes to, you know, when it's like, oh, what superpower would you have, and stupid quizzes like that, I mean, who doesn't choose flying? It's what everyone wants to do. But also, he's just the most interesting character. Like, he's had an incredibly tragic past. I know it's kind of like cliched and stuff like that, but it is honestly a very moving story. Like in the first scene in the first X-Men film, you see him trying to reach his mother.
Yeah.
And then also when you see how his mother gets killed in the scene in X-Men Days of Futures Past, and how he's basically being tortured and stuff like that. And he has sort of come out on top. He's controlled. It's like his powers are just basically amazing. They've developed amazingly and stuff like that. And he had a beautiful relationship with Charles and stuff like that. And he wants to, like, you know, look after all mutants and stuff like that. But even though he's kind of like his actions and stuff, it'd be silly to say questionable. He obviously does horrible things in the movie. But at the same time, it's like, can you blame him?
He is an anti-hero in a way.
Yeah.
Like, he plays the antagonist of the movies, apart from the second one. But that's as a result of him trying to protect his own. And in that respect, he's relatable. Mm-hmm. The movies do a really good job of presenting him because he was a really key central character in the comic books, obviously. Mm-hmm. But Ian McKellen is kind of the only guy who could have pulled it off. Because he is a guy that he needs to be polite, courteous, but also a hint of evil. Yeah. And I feel like Ian McKellen, even as Gandalf, has that hint where you feel like he could go to lengths that you couldn't personally go to. And Magneto does do that. And so I can kind of see where you're coming from.
He does do horrible things though. So I say he protects his own. But in the first X-Men film, he's gonna, you know, kill Rogue for his own purposes, and he also tries to kill Mystique. I mean, I know what he's doing has good intentions because he doesn't want, you know, what are those giant robots called?
I have no idea.
You know, they're in the sort of X-Men universe and they're killing all the mutants. He wants to stop that from happening, but it's a bit like, whoa. Oh, wait a minute. It's like, whoa, Eric.
yeah.
Let's just have a cup of tea and talk about this, okay? Before we go in guns blazing sort of thing.
I completely agree, and I do really like Magneto, and my favourite scene, personally, is the end of X-Men 3, which will be controversial because loads of people hate X-Men 3, but where he's sat playing chess by himself because good old Xavier's died, and he tries to move the chess piece on the board with his mind and his powers that he's lost in battle, and it moves just an inch. And it's like, that moment for me was so satisfying, because you've kind of followed him through those 3 movies at the end. Yeah. And that was definitely like one of the most satisfying moments in the X-Men movie universe. But my choice is better.
Oh, really?
Because my choice is the central figure for not only the X-Men movies, but the X-Men comics. He's a central figure. He's one of the 3, if not 2, top characters in Marvel as a whole. He is Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, who hasn't only starred in 4 X-Men films, but 2 of his own films. That's 6 films. Magneto hasn't had his own films. And basically, he is the centre of the storyline. No matter which way you view the films, whether it's from X-Men 1 all the way to Days of Futures Past, in order of their release date, or whether it's in order of time, so you put like Wolverine before X-Men 1 and the Wolverine after Origins Wolverine, and things like, no matter how you watch them, you come out of those movies knowing that Wolverine is the man. Like, even the one movie where he doesn't really show up, which was X-Men First Class, he has the line of the movie. You know what I mean?
That was the coolest part of the entire movie. It was a definite nerdgasm.
Yeah, exactly. I was in the cinema, and it was the first showing in my local town at the time, and the way McAvoy and Fassbender almost self-consciously are half smiling at going and introducing themselves to him, and he's there smoking a cigar with a glass of whiskey on a bar, and just without them even really asking him anything, just go fuck yourself. Like, that was the best use of the F-bomb I've ever heard in a movie.
What rated was that film, out of curiosity?
It was a 12.
Is it?
They're all a 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, it's quite, to use an F-bomb in a 12.
Yeah.
But it was good. It was worth it.
It was definitely worth it.
It was worth some adults putting their hands over their children's ears.
And, like, that's what I mean, though. Wolverine's just this badass guy who's the centerpiece of the movies.
Excuse me.
As I've said, he's along with Spider-Man, probably the biggest character Marvel have. And I know that's changed a lot recently because of the Avengers, and everyone's now got on the backs of, like, Iron Man and characters like that. And within the cinematic universe, it'd be hard to argue against Iron Man as the one.
But when we were kids, it was definitely Wolverine and Spider-Man for definite.
Like, maybe not so much in the comics, but at the very least, he was one of the biggest crossover characters. He was in cartoons, he was in movies, he was in everything. Whereas, as was Spider-Man. Whereas these other characters that have come later weren't.
It's very much a recent thing, because I remember the X-Men and Spider-Man cartoons when I was a kid, so yeah, I'd agree.
I also remember the Iron Man cartoon, but there's a reason, in my opinion, why Marvel, as a studio, released Spider-Man and X-Men before they ever released the Avengers. Yeah. And that's...
It helped to form the niche, basically, for Marvel to be able to release it. Like, do you think there would have been as much interest in the Avengers before they were released? Because I don't think there would have been.
I also don't think so. Yeah. Like, obviously, there'd kind of been this small part of the market where Batman had excelled until Joel Schumacher took the reins, but generally it was kind of... X-Men had to be first. Spider-Man had to be there as well, because those were films where the CGI was finally getting up to a standard where it was doable. And those were the characters that needed to sell it. Yeah. Wolverine and Spider-Man. It's actually... Which is why, in my opinion, Wolverine is the X-Men movie character, the best X-Men movie character.
You may think he is the main character of the X-Men franchise. I would have to disagree. Because, as I mentioned, who is in the first scene of the first X-Men movie? Oh, wait, it's Magneto.
True.
And then who, as you said before, who is in the end scene of the third one?
Yeah, it's Magneto.
Seems to be following a certain person's narrative, isn't it?
Yeah,
and storyline. And as I said, I think he is the more interesting character. I mean, like, Wolverine is cool. Like, yeah, he's really good looking. Yeah, he's really masculine. He's quite badass. Blah-de-blah. But he can be a bit of a boring character, literally. Oh, I'm so grumpy and a loner. I sit in bars by myself and drink whiskey. It's like, oh, whatever, Wolverine, you big drama queen. He does get, like, after the sixth movie, it's like, whatever, Wolverine. Like, he is cool, but, like, in terms of the complexity, I can't say that word, complexity of Magneto, I just don't think he stands up to him. And also, who would win in a fight?
We're currently laughing because the next question in this list I was going to win by saying who would win in a fight. She's used it against me in this form, and obviously Magneto would win in a fight because Wolverine's made of adamantium, a metal.
I just love in the first movie when they're on the train, it's literally Magneto's like, are you kidding me? There is metal running out to your entire body. Oh, this is amazing.
That actually reminds me of another scene from Magneto, which I absolutely love, which is in X-Men. I can't remember which X-Men it is. I think it might be the second one, where they put a drug into one of the security guards' drinks, and he goes to serve Magneto with some things, and Magneto just brings the iron right out of his blood, and it's just so awesome to see. It's horrible because you just see bits of blood coming out of his skin through his pores, but at the same time, it's a presentation of power that I don't think you see from anyone else in those movies.
He is ruthless.
Yeah.
I think he was like one of the first villains who did really scare me as a child.
Yeah.
Because he will do anything to reach his ends.
And like I've said at the beginning, he's kind of an understandable one. Whereas I feel like Wolverine, for such a loner, kind of sticks by the... I'm kind of destroying my own argument here. He kind of sticks by the really stereotypical comic book hero where he just does the right thing. Even though him himself as a person is not a good guy, he still always does. Yeah, he still always does the good guy thing, which I think is really quite
inconsistent. It's
a bit too typical.
You should do the occasional dick move.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'm going to concede the point to you there, which makes it 2-1 to you.
Woo!
With one question left. And we don't have any tiebreaker questions, so if we draw, we draw and we pick it up next time. But
it's the first one, you know.
So, question number 5. It's actually International Women's Day today.
Woo!
Which makes this really appropriate. If you're hearing this after Sunday, the 8th of March, we're sorry. But it was International Women's Day today. And what I'm asking, who is the best female character in sci-fi or fantasy movies?
Well, first can I say I apologise for using your question. But this one, basically, I think if you asked anyone this question, they would give this answer because I think she is unanimously the most beloved and badass female character in the entire sci-fi and fantasy genre. And it would have to be Princess Leia.
Good choice.
I think she is, especially when Star Wars came out in 1977, didn't it?
Yeah, the first one.
And I think what has been the problem of writing women, especially in sci-fi, is they're not written as people. They're either the sort of the damsel in distress, or as you would say, you know, the sort of like Sigourney Weaver is good in that film, but how did you describe that? Like,
I don't remember.
it was just basically like they either sort of the mother or damsel in distress character, or they sort of become a man instead of just being a woman.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
which is not me criticising women in film, and I think that they should continue giving women roles. Obviously, like the day the Black Widow movie comes out will be a very good day. Yeah.
But like, to be honest, like it's okay for women to be masculine characters because in real life women can be masculine.
Yeah, that's completely agree.
And it's all right for women to have masculine traits because, of course, women, like, that's the point. Women are complex.
Yeah.
But my point is that it's either they are the damsel in distress or just a masculine character.
Yeah.
Whilst with Princess Leia, I think she is written as a person, and the kind of person she is awesome. So, you know, she's a diplomat, she's royalty.
She also, within the lines of the narrative, makes all of her own choices.
She does, doesn't she?
It's very rare that she's forced into doing certain things. It's her suggestion that they go to certain planets. It's her that says "I love you" first in the romance story that occurs with her and Han Solo.
Yeah.
It's her who initiates the conversation with Luke about their family ties. She pushes the narrative as opposed to being pushed by it.
Admittedly, in the beginning of the franchise, she is a bit of a damsel in distress. But to be honest, that's real life. People get into trouble and they need to get helped out by others.
But again, like even when she's getting caught, she's kind of talking back to Darth
Vader. She's literally, I don't give a...
Yeah, he's like the baddest man in the universe, officially. Darth Vader. And she's just like, no, I'm not having this.
Yeah. And she suffers quite a lot in the hostage. She witnesses a whole planet being destroyed, and she faces torture and execution. And she remains composed, because she is royalty. I do love that about her. But the best thing about her, as soon as she was rescued, she was literally, okay, you guys are a bloody shambles. I'm taking over. Yeah. Because they were a bit, they didn't know what to do. I just absolutely loved that. She's like, okay, I am grateful that you rescued me and stuff like that, but I am the most suitable person to lead the away team. And not the away team, the rescue. Yeah. And she is, and I just love how basically all the way through that she's like, what are you doing? This is stupid. Yeah. You're going to get us killed.
Which is the opposite of what Natalie Portman plays as Queen Amidala, her mother. Because Queen Amidala is kind of subject to everything that happens with Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker. She's the result of everything that happens with him, as opposed to causing things to happen, as I've said before.
Yeah.
But instead of padding your argument, I'm going to just throw mine out there. My favourite sci-fi fantasy female character is Trinity in The Matrix, because
Pretty cool.
Yeah, there's just, in my opinion, there's very few better sci-fi movie introductions than Trinity's. This mysterious figure comes out of a nightclub and begins a conversation that leads to the reveal that nothing is real.
Yeah.
And everything is but a projection.
The beginning of the first Matrix movie is amazing, I have to say. Yeah.
And the way that she has, again, it's a woman who makes her own choices. And this story dictates that she's destined to fall in love with the one.
Which is a bit annoying.
Which kind of takes her away from the power of the narrative. But at the same time, she understands this and has the faith that she'll discover it herself.
Yeah.
And that it won't just happen to her. And I feel like a lot of the scenes in the movie, especially with Agent Smith, she's very forceful in how she battles that. And yeah, she knows she can't beat Agent Smith, but she knows
she does it anyway, though, doesn't she?
She still fights him anyway.
Yeah.
She still protects her fellow team members, if you can call them that.
That, when she does go and try and save Morpheus, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That entire scene, that's kind of going off like Trinity and just the entire Matrix as well, with when she like crashes the helicopter into the building and all that. It's just, also that is why Trinity is amazing. Like, every sort of fighting's like, just love her.
Yeah.
She, like when she was running, like, didn't the actress break her ankle? You can see in one of the films, I think it's the second one, when they go to see the Frenchman and they have a bit of a shootout, she runs on one of the walls and you can see where her ankle turns. It looks quite painful, but you don't see many, I don't think you see, like, at that point in the 1990s, I don't think you saw many female characters doing that in sci-fi.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, the only comparison you can make is really Ripley.
Yeah.
And Alien 4 was out around 97.
Yeah.
So I think it was kind of still in the social conscious that you could have a badass woman. But Trinity was more than that. She wasn't just a badass, and she wasn't just a mother figure, and she wasn't just a damsel in distress. She was kind of all of them.
Yeah.
But then also a person.
She's complex.
You as an audience saw that world through her more than anyone, because Lawrence Fishburne's character was so determined to get to where he needed to go that you couldn't really identify with him as much. And then Neo, played by Keanu Reeves.
Well, I don't think he really portrayed that much, did he?
Yeah, like he's not really supposed to portray emotion, but
he just kind of stood there going,
Yeah, Keanu Reeves is kind of good at that.
Yeah, just sort of sitting there pensively.
Yeah, which works brilliantly for The Matrix, but I feel like Trinity was our real emotional bond with the universe.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of couldn't really articulate how awesome I thought she was in terms of her fighting skills. And I'm probably going to be the same at, like, describing how emotional her performance was. I think she is the heart of those movies.
Yeah, definitely.
Like when she goes to sacrifice herself in the second film, knowing that she's going to die.
Yeah.
Like, she's just such a lovely, selfless character. I mean, like, usually when you kind of get like characters who are killers, basically, they're usually portrayed as, very cold and calculated. Well, she had a lot of heart and character. Like, I think she had a truly beautiful character. Yeah,
and I think going back to that, like, the sort of badasses who kill a lot of people in movies, when they're portrayed as the hero, are always men. And I feel like in this movie, she's the hero to everyone else's damsel in distress.
Yeah.
So often.
Yeah.
That it might as well be about her. Like, obviously it's not going to be, because it is about the one and overthrowing the Matrix. But it generally, like you've said before, she rescues Morpheus. She
saves
sacrifices
Neo.
herself. Yeah. She's just generally, she takes all the risks to getting into that world in the first place.
Yeah.
She is the hero to their damsel in distress, as I've said. And just to kind of round up this question, I obviously love Princess Leia. I'm a massive Star Wars fan. But would she really win in a fight against Trinity? Just to turn the question back on you.
Well, you say that, but, you know, if Trinity was about to shoot Princess Leia's head off, Princess Leia could command the whole rebel base to blast her out of the sky, though, couldn't she?
She probably could. It depends on how you see Trinity. Is the Star Wars universe the Matrix?
Let's just say,
Because Trinity obviously has the upper hand on physical combat and Matrix skills, for lack of a better term. But then Princess Leia's kind of, you know, she's within her own universe, so it's kind of hard to distinguish who'd win.
On her own, I think Trinity would rip her head off.
Yeah.
But my problem with Trinity is the fact that she is sort of the sideline character to sort of like, you know, let the male protagonist blossom into his full potential. She's effectively a mother character.
Yeah.
Which falls into a trope, whilst I still think Princess Leia is a fuller character. Unfortunately, she's kind of, not unfortunately, but she's also then a romantic crux in the story. But I think she's better.
Yeah, I'm gonna concede, which means you win 3-1. Princess Leia's, she's every fat nerdy kid's wet dream.
Yeah, especially after the Jabba the Hutt scene.
Yeah, but she's also quite a big female icon because of how she is in the films.
Yeah.
I mean, it is helped by the fact that she's the only woman in the films.
Yeah.
Which is awful, but I think she is better than Trinity because she does lead the narrative a lot more, and she
does hold the men's hands, but she's not there to specifically do that, sort of, in a way.
She doesn't fall under the umbrella of what are stereotypically women roles.
Especially in this genre.
She's a character with a lot of layers, and is basically the sort of character that we need more of.
Yeah.
Like, if they don't make more films with female leads, successful sci-fi franchises with female leads, they're missing out on a massive portion of their audience, because I think a statistic came out recently that 47% of Marvel readers, comic books, were women, which is like an incredible amount of people that aren't getting represented in
Basically, that's the problem in sci-fi. People don't actually realise that most of sci-fi is probably supported and financed by women.
And then the studios will come out with the excuse of, but we made Lucy with Scarlett Johansson, and it wasn't very successful. Well, that wasn't very successful because apparently it wasn't very good. Make a good film with a good female character, and it will be successful. Jennifer Lawrence was the most financially successful box office grossing star of 2014.
Let's wonder why as well. Yeah.
And one of the reasons is because she's in a fantasy franchise, which fits in with this question, that young teenage female audiences can identify above and beyond with than they can with any of the alternative teenage viewings that are currently around, like the Avengers, the X-Men movies, the Fantastic Four reboot, the Spider-Man movies. Yeah. Because those films are about men. And they are women. And
then there's women are mostly damsels in distress. I just think it is a shame, because when we were trying to answer this question before, it was sad because we were really struggling to actually think of women.
It was difficult. I mean, a lot of the characters that I came up with were kind of all secondary.
Yeah.
Like, other than Ripley and Alien and the two that we picked, and Katniss from The Hunger Games, it's kind of, you're thinking the sort of characters like
Galadriel.
Or Aurora in Guardians of the Galaxy, or Storm in X-Men, who's barely got a role.
Yeah.
All these characters that just kind of aren't there.
Yeah.
They're just kind of shoved in just to make up the numbers, which is awful, and that's pretty much what I think we should take away from this is
Give us more female protagonists in sci-fi and fantasy.
Exactly, and I'm a man, and I agree with that. So,
Woo! High five.
all those board members sat in the head offices of Disney's Marvel section or whatever it is.
We're the audience. We have spoken.
Yeah, this is a male and female audience saying that we want female people. So, yeah.
You know what to do. Go on.
Also, cast gay people and every other type of person ever in
Basically,
the world.
sort out your representation, guys. Sort it out.
We're sick of white men. And that's coming from a white man. Which somehow, almost inappropriately, brings us around to one of the most... one of the saddest stories in recent history for film fans and sci-fi nerds and all the rest of it, which is the death of Leonard Nimoy. I'm a big fan of the Star Trek reboots, and I have seen the Wrath of Khan original Star Trek movie, but beyond that, I don't know too much about it. So I'm just going to let Katie kind of give a bit of a tribute to Leonard Nimoy, because he will obviously be sorely missed.
Well, I think Joe is basically insinuating that I am a massive, disgusting Trekkie, and yes, I am, and I am proud. So obviously, this news actually hit me more than I expected it to, because I do remember reading the story that he went into hospital, and I hoped that he would get better, but unfortunately he passed away, and it really did upset me. And I didn't expect it to, because I don't know the man, but Star Trek, it's more than a TV series and a film franchise. Star Trek is incredibly, because that is what he's most famous for.
Yeah.
He has been in other stuff, but I think the reason why there's been so much outpouring of especially towards his family, is because of his role in Star Trek. And it's because Star Trek has been so important. It was an incredibly sociologically important programme. And with Leonard Nimoy playing Spock, he is the face of the Star Trek franchise, even though there's numerous movies and numerous series not even focusing on his character. He is the most famous. Ask any child. Even when I was about 3 years old, I probably would have said, "Oh, Mr. Spock," sort of thing.
Even me, I grew up in for large periods of time, a single parent household where I had just my mum, who was a female who didn't like sci-fi movies, didn't like sci-fi TV, she didn't like Star Trek, but I knew who Leonard Nimoy was.
Yeah.
It's like everyone knows who Luke Skywalker is, everyone knows who Darth Vader is, even if they haven't seen Star Wars, they know who these people are. Mm-hmm. I knew who Leonard Nimoy Spock was. Yeah. I knew Live Long and Prosper, I knew the hand sign, I knew everything.
He is ingrained in pop culture, which I think it is really amazing, because now he's effectively immortalised, and in what better way, Star Trek, as I've said it a billion times, it's so important. I mean, when it was made, think about all the issues that existed in the 1960s. The civil rights movement was happening in America, women's equality as well, and stuff like that, and that film represented it. Uhura, a black woman on a bridge of a ship, in a commanding role, she was featured in it in the 1960s. There was a Russian guy working alongside who you assume to be Americans and stuff like that. And the character of Spock, I think, is so important, especially because he's half human and half Vulcan. During his, after Leonard Nimoy's death, there were all these lovely posts on the internet, and there were biracial, mixed race and biracial people were writing letters in the 1960s, basically saying to Mr. Spock, "You've made me feel so much better. People bully me at school because my mum's white and my dad's black," and sort of thing. And I think he just... he gave people comfort, and the fact that even though he was I'm getting too emotional.
It's all right. I think everyone's quite emotional.
Yeah, everyone's really sad still. But even though he suffered prejudice, he still came out on top.
Yeah.
He's the first officer of the flagship of the Star of the Federation, and all those people who kind of abused him in his past, even his father, he's you know what, live long and suck it, I'll do what I want, sort of thing. Yeah. But it's not only that. I just think Star Trek, It is, yeah. It is so important. Like, I've just helped to break to boost women equality. And in fact, Leonard Nimoy himself, he campaigned to get Nichelle Nichols, I think that's her name, to get as much equal pay as the actors who played Sulu and Chekhov, because there was a disparity. I'm getting emotional again.
It's alright. I mean, as a person who, like I say, I've only seen The Wrath of Khan and the 2 new Star Trek movies, and I've seen Leonard Nimoy in what I assume is only one more movie than that, which is Sucker Punch. Just knowing who he is, like I've said before, just knowing the pop culture surrounding him, the moment in Star Trek 2009, the J.J. Abrams movie, where new Kirk meets old Spock, it's just brilliant. And it wouldn't be as brilliant if it wasn't Leonard Nimoy, because Leonard Nimoy is Spock.
Yeah.
That's just how it is and how it will always be. And I feel like you mentioned a minute ago, he is going to be forever immortalised because of that role. And that appropriately brings us to the end of this podcast, which has been the Film Mobcast, because we're a mob of film buffs. Just trying to cheer everyone up after quite a dark and sad topic.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to be so concise and bring up so many points, and I don't know how to break down. Excuse me.
That's fine, completely forgivable. We might mention it again at some point.
Yeah.
Today we've discussed Independence Day 2, which we both agree is good.
Woo!
Yep.
We're excited.
Jurassic Park is the best Jeff Goldblum film.
Yeah.
The Great Escape and Miracle on 34th Street, we couldn't come to a decision on. Gandalf is the best movie wizard of all time.
True.
Which I think is going to be... That opens a can of worms, because a lot of people like Merlin, obviously, as well as the 2 that we said, and the rest of the Harry Potter universe. But Gandalf won that, which was my only win of the evening, which was nice. Thanks for that.
Sorry.
Magneto was the best X-Men movie character, and Princess Leia was the best female character in sci-fi fantasy movie history, and that's it. It was 3-1 to you, and you won.
Yeah.
So congratulations, you get a made-up prize that I can't think of right now.
I'll have this gingerbread man.
Okay, you can have a gingerbread man. And thanks for listening. This is the filmmagazine.com's Film Mobcast podcast. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, Pinterest, and thefilmmagazine.com. You can also follow me directly on Twitter at JoeTFM, JoeTFM, where you can shout at me for choosing the wrong picks or whatever you want to do. I am Joe, and this is Katie.
Hello and goodbye.
We'll be back at some point soon.
Yeah.
Some point soon. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.